Okay, first book of Christ for atheists. We're going to be doing chapter 31, Solutions to Society's Woes, Vagrancy, and Intolerable Intolerance. This book is available free on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, or you may purchase it through Amazon for $20. Solutions to Society's Woes, Vagrancy, and Intolerable Intolerance. Intolerable Tolerance. A young student's solution to vagrancy. I share this young girl's ideas as she prepares to enter a society that is running amok. As a student with her life ahead of her and seeing the weakness of a democratic society, she wrote about those in our society who either choose not to contribute or in a stage in their life where they are being productive at the moment in time where being productive in the time was impossible. This is this young student's impression of how to deal with what all cities are dealing with in North America. The problem we face today are there because the people who work for a living are outnumbered by those who vote for a living. Put me in charge of food grants. I'd get rid of cash for potato chips or chocolate, just money for 50-pound bags of rice and beans, blocks of cheese, and all the powdered milk you can haul away. If you want steak and frozen pizza, then get a job. Put me in charge of health care. The first thing I'd do is get women Norplant birth control implants or tubal ligation. Then we'd test recipients for drugs, alcohol, and nicotine, and document all tattoos and piercings. If you want to reproduce or use drugs or alcohol, smoke, or get tattoos and piercings, then get a job. Put me in charge of government housing. Ever live in a military barracks? You will maintain our property in a clean and good state of repair. Your home will be subject to inspection anytime, and possessions will be inventoried. If you want a plasma TV or Xbox 360, then get a job and your own place. Put me in charge of compulsory job search. You will either present a check stub from a job each week, or you will report to a government job. If it may be cleaning the roadways of trash, painting, and repairing public housing, whatever we find for you. We will sell your 22-inch rims and low-profile tires and your blasting stereo and speakers and put that money toward the common good. She's quite a gal. Before you write that I've violated someone's rights, realize that all of the above is voluntary. If you want our money, accept our rules. Before you say that this would be demeaning and ruin their self-esteem, consider that it wasn't that long ago that taking someone else's money for doing absolutely nothing was demeaning and lowered self-esteem. If we are expected to pay for other people's mistakes, we should at least attempt to make them learn from their bad choices. The current system rewards them for continuing to make bad choices. And while you're on government subsistence, you can no longer vote. Yes, that's correct. For you to vote would be a conflict of interest. You will most likely vote for a welfare government, so you must voluntarily remove yourself from voting while you are receiving a government welfare check. If you want to vote, then get a job. The merits of being responsible for your own actions were traditional when I was young. While helping others is a mainstay of my life's journey, this young girl makes a lot of sense. Caring for others should go hand in hand with people striving to improve their lot in life. We are there to help them on their journey, not carry them. A social suggestion to our government to reduce vagrancies. I think that I could agree with this young lady as I look at our cities being overrun by vagrancy. The fact is that when my mother was a young woman, she worked in an insane asylum with 500 patients, mostly from the closest city of perhaps 300,000. The same asylum houses perhaps 50 patients today, which suggests that we have less crazy people today, or we don't take care of them as we once did. Recently, I was driving downtown when I saw a young fellow pulling up his t-shirt as he swirled around at an intersection with his pants low enough that you could see half of his underwear. It was winter. As I went past him, I thought that this young fellow needs help either to get off drugs or to straighten out his mental state. Even as a Vincentian, I couldn't find it within myself to stop and see if I could help him towards getting some help. I really didn't know what I could do, so I did what most citizens do today. I turned my head away and drove away. In Canada, we have thousands of miles of barren land consisting of tundra, bog, and frozen land. When I was 10 and going to the YMCA, I met a couple of Inuit who were called Eskimo back then. I understand that Eskimo means eaters of raw meat, which supposedly is derogatory, even though they have survived for thousands of years in the barren north because they eat raw meat. I wonder if Edmonton would use the name the Edmonton Sushi Eaters for our football club. The name change to Elks has resulted in the worst win-loss record at home in all professional sports. As pointless as this is to me, I think our anal behavior and shame for being colonizers may lead to all streets and cities reverting back to indigenous names. If you want to find, let alone say the name of St. Albert Trail, you may have to say Chemin St. Albert, Tri Kilhewatwa, Alberta, Meskawana. This way, French, English, and Cree are all included. Isn't that wonderful? These young men were down from the north for the first time. They were dark and short and living a life of hunting and gathering. Science says that they are short to preserve the heat in their bodies more efficiently, while Africans are tall to dissipate the heat over a broader surface. I don't know if they include Scandinavians from the Arctic or pygmies from Africa in their analysis. The federal government was collecting these nomads and settling them in communities so that they could be civilized. By teaching them our values and our religion, they would become one of us. At least that is what the federal government thought at the time. Residential schools were a catastrophe which caused a lot of pain to those forced to attend and to the families that were left without the right to raise their own children. The life expectancy of our northern hunter-gatherers was 35 years when I was 10, as the lifestyle was tough, rugged, and demanding. Today, villages made of squalor dot the Canadian North. Today villages made of squalor dot the Canadian North with overcrowding, shanty housing, poor community services, drug and alcohol use, and high suicide rates, and children who see no future. From early death rates due to their physically demanding lifestyle of hunting, whaling, seals, polar bear, and others, they now wait for an annual barge that floats into their community with goods supplied by charities from the south. Tooth decay, obesity, diabetes, and emptiness fill these communities. Some people fill their time helping those within their community, but making a good livelihood in many communities is next to impossible. By the way, in a fact check, Eskimo means netters of snowshoes. Not exactly the best description of our northern family. What a dumb name to call our football team. We serve a community on an island in the Arctic called Ulahaktuk. Dedicated people have organized food relief to this community. Friends Peter Ouellette organizes relief in Western Territories. Linda and Larry Tutt focus on Ulahaktuk. What can the northern communities do to enhance their structure so that public facilities, well-built, uncrowded homes, and stimulating career opportunities can offer a future to their young ones? The solution. The Northwest Passage is open and is becoming a main thoroughfare for goods traveling from Asia to Europe. The federal government must be lobbied to insist that all employment in the North be first offered to the labor force in the territories. If they don't have the skills, they must be trained, and the cost of their education is covered by the feds. It should be mandatory that all Inuit be given training in the jobs necessary to run this pathway. Training as captains of ships, stewards, deckhands, mechanics, and military security should be all available to the young northern inhabitants of Canada at no cost to the students. They can learn via computer much of what is necessary and brought into training facilities when necessary. This should be a mandatory program requiring the Inuit to work away from home with leave long enough to return to their villages. It is their land, and they deserve to make a decent living. Even Denmark restricts how many narwhals the Inuit can take, which limits their ability to make a decent living. The scientists make their decisions by occasional flybys, while the Inuit see the abundance of these animals on a daily basis. Who better is to decide how many can be hunted but those that live and work in the frozen north? Vagrancy is a problem. It's an epidemic in the South because our politicians don't have the backbone or the imagination to solve the problem. Recently, our city fathers were proposing fining up to $500 for people loitering on the streets. Brilliant. In the mix of people who are on the streets are those that just can't afford rent. Others are drug addicts who just want to be drug addicts. Then there are the mentally ill and drug addicts that would seek help if it was available. With our government providing a catch and release policy towards criminals, we have many murderers, violent offenders, and child molesters living among us. Every once in a while, we get a warning through the media that a dangerous person or a child molester is living in our area. We hear nothing more until they do something to someone innocent who happens to cross their path, often leading to another death or rape. More affordable housing and a higher minimum wage could solve the problem of unaffordable housing. After World War II, wartime housing was built by the feds that gave veterans a chance to own a house and start a family. They were built on slabs, 2 or 3 bedrooms, and mass-produced at minimal costs. As people become more affluent, they would add basements and expand living space. In China, our communities called hutong, or water well. They have a central washroom and shower facility surrounded by residential homes. This would be an economical way to support people with minimal means. Then there are the drug addicts, those that want to stay high and those that want to quit but can't. The village of Yulahuktuk has children that need productive careers. Traveling to communities from their village to a village of drug users who choose not to quit would provide meaningful work for the locals while containing the drug users away from our cities. They would be safer and their drugs would be safe and controlled. Students graduate from nursing schools with a specialty in mental health would come back to their home village and commuting to work each day. Village is far enough away that the drug users cannot get to the village by walking because the land is frozen tundra. The drug users get their drugs free and they exist as a community. The details would have to be worked out, but we would not be the first country to isolate those that choose to opt out of society. Siberia has been a penal colony for years. The nursing group from Yulahuktuk will determine which drug addicts sincerely want to try to get off the drugs. Pilots and planes are needed. Students from the village will learn to fly. They are the pilots that courier supplies and personnel from the south to the north, carrying vital supplies and personnel. Security would be at minimal, with no barbed wire or walls necessary. There is no place to run. The same idea would be applied to long-term incarcerated groups. I think that just because of living so far from our cities would be a deterrent for some to perhaps behave. I think that we can all agree that seeing people living on the streets many drug addicts or mentally disturbed has caused our communities to become less attractive and less safe. We should be studying how Japan keeps their citizens respectful towards each other. We must do something. Human rights has gone too far and has resulted in the mess we are in. People who need help should be given the help and not just put out in our society to fend for themselves. Cost? Read the next chapter. This is a preliminary vision of improvements I see for our northern family. It has merit if our politicians have the will. My thoughts are preliminary with many holes, but this doesn't mean that the concept shouldn't be considered by those that want our north part of Canada and its people in the north prosperous. Oh boy. Ugh.